Okay, we start with a graph of y equals how much you made so far in dollars versus how long it's been since we started in hours. Now there's a lot of stuff on this graph, but the original graph just looked like this purple thing here. Okay, I asked, what's the average rate of change of y with respect to x on the interval from 3 hours to 7 hours? I broke it down a little bit. Okay, the coordinates, I asked for the coordinates corresponding for 3 hours. In other words, the 3-hour mark. And everybody got that. They said, well, the coordinate is 3:40. And I said, yeah, it is, but it's actually 3 hours, $40. And then the coordinate corresponding to 7 hours is 7 hours, $70. Then I asked, what's the average rate? Now that implies the average rate of change of y with respect to x. And continuing the language that we used in the preceding. So the average rate is the average rate, which is change in y divided by change in x. The change in y, well, y is $40 and then it's $70, so the change is $70 minus 40 hours. And x goes from 3 hours to 7 hours, so the change in x is 7 hours minus 3 hours, which is 4 hours. Excuse me. Okay, and that comes out $7.5 over hours, and we usually just call that $75 over hour, which is $7.5 per hour. That's something you can easily relate to. Hopefully you make more money than that, but a lot of people don't. Especially people who are working part-time and in school. Okay, so next thing I say is, okay, on the graph, between these two graph points, what's the rise and what's the run? Now, before I did that, I sketched this fundamental triangle between the 3-hour $40 and 7-hour $70 points. And then I asked, what's the rise, what's the run, what's the slope? Well, people gave me answers, but there weren't any units on the answers that I saw at first. Okay? Now there's one that did have the units finally. And that's the last one that came in because it takes a while to type it out, right? So, all very good answers. Y'all are doing really well. Okay, this is going very well for us. Okay, so I mean the class in general with the MyOpen Math and everything. So anyhow, we did the rise and the run, and that was pretty obvious. I specified that we want to put arrows that go from this point to this point, either directly along the hypotenuse or directly along the path, but from the same starting point to the same ending point. So we keep our signs straight because that's going to become important. That's important in many examples. Okay, so we have the rise, which goes from the $40 up to the $70. I went ahead and used 70. I was going to use 67. But from 7 hours to $70, $40 to $70, the rise is $30. The run is from 7 hours up, from 3 hours to 7 hours. 7 hours minus 3 hours, 4 hours. There's our rise, there's our run, corresponding to the numerator and denominator we used here. And appropriately, since slope is rise over run, the result here, $30 over 4 hours, is the same as it was up here. So we see that the graph and the fundamental triangle in that graph totally represents the rate of change of the average rate of change of y with respect to x on the interval from 3 hours to 7 hours. I'm going to specify that interval. Here's our interval, here's our triangle, here's our slope, which is the average rate of change. So the slope equals the average rate of change on that interval. I don't have to put all the words in there.